Let's not get so worried about the Federal Reserve that we forget there are companies with such tremendous earnings growth that it really doesn't matter what the Fed does. They'll thrive in any environment. Take Salesforce, the king of cloud computing. Here's a stock that had been roaring since we last spoke to CEO Mark Benioff, right after the company reported a terrific quarter in late February that sent the stock surging 11% the next day. As of today's close, Salesforce had rallied nearly 25% since that interview. And the darn thing just keeps skyrocketing higher. Salesforce reported again after the bell tonight, and the company delivered yet another amazing quarter, beating Wall Street's earnings estimates by a penny on a 23% basis. Higher than expected revenue grew at 27% clip year over year. Billings up 31%, bookings by 38%, and my favorite indicator, operating cash flow, growth of a staggering 43%, surpassing $1 billion for the quarter. Plus, management raised their full-year revenue and earnings forecast for the 2017 fiscal year. No wonder the stock's surging in after-hours trading. So let's take a closer look with Mark Benioff. He is Salesforce's visionary founder, chairman, and CEO, to learn more about the quarter and what's next for his company. Mr. Benioff, welcome back to Mad Money.
Jim, it's great to see you. How are you doing?
All right, Mark, I'm going to give you your pick. You can talk about the fact that you are finally guiding to $2 billion quarter. You can talk about the fact that you raised your revenue forecast big, and you have deferred revenue of $4 billion. Or how about this 43% year-over-year operating cash flow? Because that is cash, that is profit. I'd like to start there.
Well, I think that's a great place to start. You can see, Jim, these are our record numbers for a record quarter. And you're right, it includes over $1 billion in record cash flow for the quarter. Pretty awesome for Salesforce.
So you announced a couple of new customers. I know that you had a relationship with Amazon. Everybody's talking about Amazon. This time it looks like that you are their actual partner in pretty much everything involving their Salesforce. Describe what you now are going to do for Amazon.
Well, I love Amazon, and of course I love Jeff Bezos, and we're thrilled this quarter to complete a significant and very strategic transaction with Amazon, where every Amazon employee is getting access to Salesforce's services to help them sell and service and market and build communities and analytics and apps, all the great things that Salesforce does. Of course, Salesforce is also a great customer of Amazon as well. I mean, it's really been a great partnership.
And also, excuse me, I'm thinking about the names that millennials can't do without. They can't do without Amazon, and they can't do without Uber. What are you going to be doing for Uber?
Well, Jim, I think, Uber is building a one-on-one relationship with all of their customers. And when you say Uber customers, you probably right away think about their riders. But they're using Salesforce to do something fascinating, which is to build better relationship with their drivers. And drivers are a critical part of how Uber does business. Not just driver retention, but also driver onboarding and even getting drivers back who have left Uber. And by building one-on-one customer journeys, Salesforce is doing some amazing work with Uber.
All right, go over that, because I know that when you talk to, when you talk to an Uber driver, sometimes they'll say, listen, I was a regular cab driver, I switched to Uber. Sometimes you talk to a regular cab driver and they say, hey, listen, I didn't like Uber. What will this make Uber more, how will it make more competitive versus the other cab companies?
Well, who doesn't have to build a one-on-one relationship with their customers today, Jim? I mean, we've been talking now for so many years about whether it's financial services, the banks, whether it's the major retailers, whether it's the internet companies, whether it's the media companies, or in this case, Uber. Everyone is building stronger, tighter relationships with their customers, and that's what Salesforce is all about. We're all about helping our customers to connect with their customers in a whole new way, and that's very much what Uber is doing. And that opportunity to go deeper with that customer, to really help them along their journey, well, that's what Salesforce is all about. And that's why you see such a strong quarter here, is because everyone is so focused on improving their top-line growth and their customer relationships.
Okay, Parker Harris spoke for you recently, April 28th, at your tour. He talked about the government and how the government has customers and their citizens, and that you're doing things for the government that are making so that instead of having 10 forms, there's one form. But he didn't give a good example of what you could be doing with the government. I thought you might describe that big contract that you just won.
Well, there's so many interesting things to talk about when it talks about governments actually looking at their citizens as their customers, right? It's really a transposition for a lot of governments who think about them as their citizens. Well, they're not your citizens, they're your customers, and you should be listening to these customers and connecting with them and having dialogue with them and responding to them. And a great example is these 311 call centers, like in the city of Philadelphia, where we've had tremendous success. And that is when you dial 311, you're connecting with that call center, that agent, to help you connect and get the information you need. That could also be happening on the web. That could be happening on social channels. It's a great example of how even governments have to transform how they work.
But they're not going to lose any customers if they don't. What's the incentive?
Well, I think that they are going to lose their customers in terms of they could lose their votes, they could lose their taxpayers, they could slow their economy. There's a lot of reasons for governments to be more on top of what their citizens want. I mean, we see that right here in San Francisco as well.
Okay, Target is one of your customers. Target had a tough day. They obviously had some problems in April. They talked about it, even in May. What can Salesforce do when they see that Target's having a tough time, particularly because Target may be having a tough time because of another client of yours, Amazon?
Well, I would say retail needs to transform, and you mentioned something earlier, which is one-to-one relationships. And we've seen that, and we've talked about that in our work with Home Depot, where building these one-on-one relationships with those critical stakeholders and those retailers, well, that can transform and grow your store much more rapidly than ever before. It doesn't matter if it's Target, it doesn't matter if it's Home Depot, it doesn't matter if it's Amazon. In each and every case, the more responsive you can be to who your core customer is, well, that can transform your business. But let's get to something really important. Do you know who your customer really is? You asked another question about Uber.
Right.
In that case, the customer is also the driver. In the case of Home Depot, that customer is also the contractor. These are the leverage points in these businesses that when these CEOs figure out who their customers are, it really accelerates their revenue growth. And that's what we've done at Salesforce as well. You can see that in our own numbers.
Well, let's go back to those numbers, because I got to tell you, this is the most this is the most I've seen you guide up, Mark. Now, a lot of that's because of the law of large numbers you're speaking about. So, but a $2 billion quarter, first time, what does that mean for Salesforce?
Well, I think what it means is we're well on our way to go right past our $10 billion dream. You know, a lot of people weren't sure Salesforce could get to $1 billion. That's where we were when we first started talking. The first time I was on your show. Now we're talking about $10 billion is imminent. And that's very exciting for Salesforce. But it's not stopping there. You can see this is also accelerated revenue growth. This is a very exciting moment for Salesforce. You can see it in the core numbers that we just have a tremendous position in the market. You also know, you can look at our competitors have been dramatically weakened by not shifting aggressively to the cloud. Just look at Oracle. Just look at SAP. You can look at the messages that they've delivered to you right on this show, but they haven't delivered their products. They haven't transformed their businesses, and therefore they haven't transformed their customers.
Okay,
and that's why companies like Oracle and SAP are suffering so badly.
But March 15th, Larry Ellison talks about how you're not even in enterprise resource. You're not in ERP at all. So therefore, I mean, how can you even state that you're a real cloud company without being in ERP?
Well, the reality is, Jim, that we have more cloud customers and more cloud market share than Oracle and SAP combined. That's very exciting.
Okay. All right. Now I've got to ask you about a couple of things involving what you use this term as excitement that you have. Why, if you're so excited, and every time I've ever seen you personally, professionally, on air, if you're excited, why do people keep thinking that you're a seller of your company?
Well, Jim, you know, this is an incredible moment in history, and as you can see, Salesforce's growth continues to accelerate and grow. I've now been let's say, working on this company for almost 18 years, and I think that, you know, we've delivered fantastic results. You know, as part of that, of course, I'm also making personal decisions as that goes. That's what's happening there.
Well, wait a second. That doesn't sound like that you're. That sounds different. It sounds like that you conceivably could be a seller.
I guess I'm not understanding what you're talking about.
The company.
I'm getting confused.
That if someone approached the company, I keep hearing, well, wait a second.
I see what you're saying.
Right. I mean, because I thought for sure, I thought we could put it to rest, Mark. That you're excited, you got the towers, you got the money, you got the $2 billion.
I thought
you give away a lot, and that we can just stop it right now about takeovers. Let's stop talking about it.
Oh, I mean, Salesforce is on such an exciting journey, Jim. I mean, I've never been more excited about Salesforce. I've never been more excited about where we are and what's going on. I mean, this is just an incredible time. And when I hear about all those things, I just put all that aside and I just focus on executing my job in the company, which is to be the CEO.
Good.
That's what I'm saying.
All right, let's leave it at that. Thank you. That's what
I certainly hope that this quarter is evidence of that, Jim.
It sure is, Mark. Thank you so much. We're going to be back with Mark for a little bit more about Salesforce.
Go Warriors, Jim.
Okay, stay with us.
All right.
Booyah! Jim Cramer here from Mad Money. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube. Click here to subscribe and get the jump on my exclusives with CEOs, plus market news, investing advice, and a whole lot more.